Bear, really quickly, give me one of the creepiest examples of Bigfoot encounter that you've gathered from a first time experiencer.
Well, when I stayed 1 year in Southwest Oklahoma, and that was back in 2009. I talked to a gentleman named Butch Bridges. He was a reporter out there for a small town newspaper, and I called him on the phone because we do a radio show called Bigfoot Outlaw Radio, which, back then it was on Blog Talk Radio. Now we do the show on a weekly basis off of YouTube.com. Anybody wants to listen to it, you just type in Bigfoot Outlaw Radio and you can go to YouTube and type in the search and find it. When I got a hold of Butch, I wanted him to come on to our radio show, which Butch at that time, he has been retired. He's an older gentleman. And I asked him about a location out there near Thackerville, Oklahoma, called by reputation and name as Brown Springs. It's on the north bank of the Red River, east of I-35 between Dallas and Oklahoma City. And he said that's one of the creepiest places he's ever been in his life. So me and Kumbo both, we was out in Oklahoma 1 year. I can't remember the year, on a outing out there at Texoma Lake. And we just wanted to see Brown Springs. And so one of our other fellow outlaws, Dan Rickey, took us out there and introduced us to Brown Springs. We actually found Bigfoot tracks on the sandbars along the Red River right there at Brown Springs. But the story I want to get into, this young couple, I'm thinking this was back in the latter 1990s, were parking. They were both from Texas, and they drove across the bridge there off the Red River and ended up at Brown Springs outside Thackerville. Of course, they pulled up there in the dark. The gentleman had taken a blanket out of the back of his vehicle and placed it on the hood of the car itself. Now I'm going to take up from what Butch Bridges told me over the phone. He said that he had his police scanner on. He kept it on 24/7 in case something hot come across the airways. And he got this story where all these state troopers and everything was to converge at Brown Springs outside Thackerville, and so he jumped in his vehicle and he took off down there. Well, when he pulled up, there was crime tape everywhere. And he knew a few of the officers involved with this investigation, so he kind of pulls them off to the side, It's a very desolate, spooky-looking area that is very rural. Not many people just go down there for no reason at all. Basically, it's private property all around, in and out through there. And he pulled these officers to the side and said, "What's going on here?" And he said, "Well, you see the vehicle up there." And of course, they had a body covered up on top of the vehicle. They hadn't even moved it yet because the coroner hadn't made it to the scene. And he pointed over there towards the spring area where the water comes out from the side of the slope into this little, it's like an artesian well, and it flows into this little spring and into a pond type scenario, and then it spills off that into the Red River. But they had another body over there covered up. And the gentleman said, "Well, what's going on? Give me the scoop." He said, "Everything I'm giving you is off the record." All right. He said, "You see the body over there next to the cattails along the little stream?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "That was the boyfriend. And he was found lying over there, nude, with his head twisted all the way backwards, looking over his back. And of course, Butch sat there and he says, "Man, what would have the strength to do something like that?" And he said, "Well, who's this on top of the hood of the vehicle?" He said, "That is the gentleman's girlfriend." And she was found nude also. But something had raped her repeatedly while she was still alive, because she had all kind of bruises between her thighs. And, you know, of course, Mr. Bridges turns around and he said, "Well, what happened here? Was this a gangland type rape or whatever?" And he said, "Well, I really don't want to get into this all so much, but she not only was brutally raped, she was split open from her sternum down lower, and her intestines and everything was laying everywhere." Said that her eyes were wide open and her mouth was wide open in like a silent scream.
Oh my God.
They did tell Butch that due to the bruising between the thighs, that means she was alive when this occurred. If this had happened after she had been emasculated, she would not have had all the bruising. All right. It sounded wild to me, and it sounded wild to Kumbo when we first heard this story. But we have people come they get in contact with us, and we make friends doing this. And one of the gentlemen that come to one of our outings in Northwest Alabama.
Well, wait, was that the wrap up of that story?
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
He was a lieutenant for a police department in North Dakota, and he was interested in this, and he said, I looked at him, and me and Kumbo both said, "Well, you can find out the truth because we heard it's an unsolved story. Would you go and check into the files of unsolved cases in that part of the state of Oklahoma and find out what it is?" He got back in contact with us, about 2 months later, Tim? And he said, yes, that is the truth, that scenario did actually happen. And it's been attributed, amongst the locals around there, plus Butch and them, that this was perpetrated by a gang of rogue-type Bigfoot creatures.
My God, how horrifying.